Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David, of course, and I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation magazine. Well, we're digital now, but this is what it used to look like when we were print. Got JL over my cover. Got Mr. Chris from Mammoth. I got Tim Holton. I got the chicken guy above my shoulders. Got an Asian grocery store coming up on my next issue. Should post hopefully by the end of next week after the holiday weekend. And got a lot of exciting things. Actually, after that, I got Valor Hospitality, the vice president of design and construction, coming up in the end of September, and just rolling right through there through the end of the year. So hopefully you'll enjoy all those Q&As on our cover. So it's Labor Day weekend here down in the South in Atlanta. Got the big game. We got University of Georgia, national champions last year. After 40 years, they beat Bama, opening up down in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium against the pretty good-looking Oregon Ducks team. And actually, that Oregon team has the defensive coordinator who used to be with the Dogs, went to Ducks. So he probably knows a lot of the ins and outs. So I'm thinking that game's going to be pretty darn close. And what's even crazier down there, we got Dragon Con going on. For those of you who don't know what Dragon Con is, it's the comic book trade show. And all the, Batman, you name anybody, any kind of comic guy, you're down there. And they're all in their costumes and stuff. One time I went down there, I went to the show, and I got in the elevator, and I was with a couple of these guys in their costumes. Talk about stink. It was like going into a hockey room. The mascots, they don't watch those things. So these guys go to the trade show down, and it's like going into a hockey lacrosse locker room at halftime. You got to hold your nose. So, but anyway, you got Georgia football going on, playing the Ducks, and then you got Dragon Con. So parking is at a premium, I'm sure, downtown. But got some, it's sunny, cloudy, thunderstorms. We're supposed to get rain the next 4 or 5 days. So, we're doing this recording on the weekend, unbelievable. So, anyway, but I hope everybody's having a great Labor Day weekend. Listen, Labor Day is all about work. So, here's a big thank you to all those workers, past and present, that helped build the world, and I'm in the U.S., so, hey, helped us build the United States, one of the great, the greatest country on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. But all those workers, all they had to do, you could go and drive around the country, and some of those roads that they had to put in and cut out some of those mountains and granite and all that stuff. That's some hellacious stuff that's done, and I'm in construction. We're all in construction here, on this podcast. That's my sector. So, and my family's been in construction since 1888. So to all those past, like I said, to all those past and present workers, just like myself, hey, enjoy your weekend. Make sure on Labor Day on Monday, you take the day off, spend your time with families, have some adult beverages, hot dogs. If you don't drink, make sure you stay hydrated, and and get ready, recharge your batteries, because the rest of the year, God, we're already almost going into the end of Q3 and then Q4, boom, and we're at the end of the year. We're closing out 2022 and going into 2023, and it's been an amazing year. Every day there's something going on. By the end of the day, I'm just drained. Whether it's politics, business, sports, you just don't know what's going to go on. And you look at it, you got all the holidays coming up. You got Halloween, you got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, and then you got New Year's, and boom, it's over. And it's going to be here before you know it. So make sure, if you're in the States, it's Labor Day weekend, recharge your battery and get ready, because it's going to be a wild ride, and nothing better than a nice ride on the roller coaster, as they say. So today, got a gentleman across the border up in Calgary, Canada. His name is Tyler Foley, correct? Tyler?
Yeah, that's right, David.
Tyler, say hello from Canada, up in the Calgary Frames, and the Roughnecks, neck of the woods, per se.
Yeah, from the home of the Roughnecks and from the thieves of the Atlanta Flames.
Yeah,
I bring you great warm greetings.
Yeah, I was pulling for the Flames in the NHL, but they ran into one of your sister, hockey teams up there, and the Edmonton, Flames thing, it went back and forth. But hey, listen, in my mind, no one was going to beat the Avalanche. It was just they had a loaded team, and all the power to him. But listen, making it to the second season, that's a pretty good statement. And
Oh yeah. No, and ironically, I grew up in Calgary and born and raised here, big Flames fan, but I actually cheer for Vancouver and they didn't have a hope this year. So
yeah. I tell people I play hockey and lacrosse, and they're like, "Oh, you should have been born in Canada. You were born in the wrong country." And but I used to go up to hockey school every summer to a place called the Hockey Ranch, and we did 4 hours of hockey and 4 hours of horseback, and we had horses where I grew up outside of Philly, and this is I'm giving my age away, but this is when I was young in the '70s. Anyway, I'm looking through my hockey digest. You see the little hockey digest, and I found my camp that I wanted to go to, and the big star. Everybody has the star to go to the camps. It was Gary Monahan. He played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he was the big star. So every summer I used to go up there for about a month, and it was during when Toronto would have the big expo and the Argos were playing, and it was out in Pickering, Ontario. I mean, it was just farmland. Now you go up there, it's like suburban sprawl. It's all built up and stuff. But some of the best memories I have, playing capture the flag on horseback, out in the farmlands. And anyway, it brings back memories. So talking to a Canadian, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. So the way this works, Tyler, is we're going to do this in 3 parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, what sports you play, you got any sister brothers, and how you ended up, what you're doing. And you got various things that you've done. Then we'll talk about the roller coaster over the last 24 months that's going on, and lessons learned. And then you'll leave one positive thought or phrase with our listeners, your contact info, and then we'll close this out. And then I'm going to go watch the Bulldogs eat some duck. So
go Bulldogs.
Yeah. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story, Tyler.
Well, it's long and circuitous. It's quite interesting. I actually started very young in theater. When I was 6 years old, I was first introduced to stage, and I was a child actor. I started out again doing performances in local theater and professional theater. I went to a fine arts high school, and from there got into film and television in my later teens. Did a lot of stunt work, and then about 25, kind of got tired of acting. I'd been doing it for 20 years. Most people who have a 20-year career, I did what comes natural at that point, and I retired. Took all my mad movie star money and went in and got an engineering discipline, specialized in civil engineering, specifically in photogrammetry. So I did aerial survey and created my own company from that. Started a wonderful firm, really enjoyed it for about 3 years. Unfortunately, as good as I was at the photogrammetry gig, I wasn't as good at running a company, and that business failed. So I had a failed business, but a lot of training in safety, because when you're doing photogrammetry, primary client you're going to be working for is the government. They're the ones who want all of the aerial photography, and then they're going to sell it out or permit or do whatever they need with it. So because I was working for the government, they wanted you to have a safety system in place. So I had to get a whole bunch of safety training. And from that safety training, when the business collapsed, a friend of mine who is an electrician runs an incredible firm and he's a much better businessman than I am. And his company is constantly in growth mode. Even through the craziness and the roller coaster of the last couple of years, he's managed to be in an accelerated growth as opposed to contraction. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I need a safety manager for this large project that we're doing up in the oil sands in northern Alberta." And he said, "You have almost all the qualifications that we need. If I pay for these other 2 courses so that you can get your National Construction Safety Officer designation, would you come work for me?" And I said, "Why not? What else am I going to do?" So I finished up with that, got my safety designation, and really started to pursue this career as a safety professional. And the funny thing is as I got further and deeper into safety consulting and working with various industries from engineering to construction to oil and gas, even childcare and healthcare. I do a lot of consulting with them. What I found was my theater experience and my gift of talk and on stage is really what helped me become a better consultant and professional. And eventually I'd have a whole bunch of executives reaching out to me asking, well, how do you do that? How do you give those meetings? How do you make those entertaining?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really know. And I had to kind of deconstruct it. The next thing I knew, I was teaching executives and very good high earning executives, intimidating salaries, how to give better presentations. And now my business has really morphed into just training people how to public speak. In fact, it's, the basis of my book that I wrote, #1 best-selling book, Power to Speak Naked. A lot of that came from the conversations that I was having with primarily construction CEOs on how to be more engaging to their staff, how to teach their supervisors and their managers how to lead better meetings so that there was more buy-in across the board on what needed to be done as far as moving projects forward safely.
So you were a stuntman too, though, correct?
Yes. So apologies to everyone in Vancouver who knows me who's about to hear this. The qualification is I was an actor who did stunts. I know a ton of really good stunt professionals who laugh every time somebody calls me a stuntman, including
I just
me.
read the bio because it says stuntman, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
cool, man. He's jumping off
yeah, yeah.
buildings, man.
So I did some really, really, really cool stunt work, supervised by some of the best, best stunt coordinators in North America. We really have truly, truly talented people up north of the border, particularly in Vancouver and Calgary, who managed to do some amazing things that look incredibly dangerous very safely. And being a small guy, I'm like 5'8", 135 pounds. I look really good being pushed out of windows because, scale, it looks like I fall further. And they really enjoyed doing that. So I used to do specialized in high falls, got into a little bit of precision stunt driving as well. That was really, really fun. Did a little bit of stunt fights, some sword work and stuff like that. But yeah, that was always a fun gig. And that was, when you're in your early 20s, to be able to be paid to drive cars really fast and jump out of 6-story windows, and paid well for that is always entertaining.
But see, excuse me, but because of that, your safety gig that you're doing now, with the high executives and et cetera, that experience or that lessons that you learn through all that has paid off. You never know where those connections are going to be made.
Yeah, and it amazed me as I was going through my training to discover how much I actually already knew about safety from my work in film. And it's amazing how that becomes kind of the translator for me. When people would be like, oh, well, you can't do that or this. And I'm like, listen, or I remember being on site, really, really big industrial complex that we were putting together. And the guys, they're like, you're not an electrician. You don't even know what you're talking about. You're not even a tradesman. And to that, I'd have to say, you're 1,000% correct. I said, but I used to jump out of 6-story windows, and that was safer than what you're doing right now. And that would always catch people's attention, where they'd be like, I'm sorry, pardon me. I remember an executive overhearing it once, and that's actually how I got my first keynote presentation as a speaker. Was an executive hearing me yell at these guys, being like, I used to jump out of windows for a living, and it was safer than what you were doing. And he came up to me afterwards. He said, is that true? I said, is what true? He said, did you used to jump out of windows? Like, explain that to me. I was like, well, I was an actor. I used to do stunts. This was a thing that I did. And the safest job that I ever had was actually doing this high fall out of a 6-story window, because of the amount of training that went into it, the amount of work that went into it. It was like 3 months of setup before I ever did the take. And we only did a single take of it. I only had to do that once. I fell once. And but 3 months, and it took less than 3 seconds from top to bottom.
The crazy, listen, heights, they don't bother me, but I think it was my freshman year in prep school, 1978. And anyway, there was the main memorial hall on our campus in Central Jersey. Anyway, they were belaying out of out of the fourth or fifth story window, and so
Yeah.
I got pretty thin rope. I'm like, that's not going to break, But you get out there on the ledge, and you belay down, but it was a safety thing. They
Yeah.
make sure you're hooked up, you're doing all this stuff. I did the bungee thing, and I
Yeah.
don't know if I do it now, but uh, uh, but all the things that go in there. But then when it happens, belaying down took like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Boom, it's over.
Yeah.
But all the pre adjustments and making sure everything's going, then then it's time to go. And uh, listen, I give anybody listen. I haven't jumped out of a plane yet. I'd like to do it. I don't know if I do it singly or with someone, but anybody that jumps out of a 6-story window, kudos. And
Yeah. See, I would rather jump out of a plane than a 6-story window.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
If something goes wrong on in that kind of a scenario, you're gonna have a beautiful view, and you are definitely going to die.
yeah,
The problem with jumping out of a 6-story window is it's about a 50-50 shot.
yeah.
You may survive it, and I don't know that I want to survive having fallen out of that window, because I'm not afraid of heights. It's the sudden stop at the end that terrifies me.
Well, listen, I also know that he's a lacrosse goalie. And if you're a lacrosse goalie, you're absolutely insane to go into the net because you're going to get pelted by that hard ball. And I play backup goalie on my team, so we have that in common. But
Yeah.
listen, jumping out of the thing, going between the pipes, that's just crazy stuff.
Yeah, it takes a certain mentality, and I do both lacrosse and hockey. So ice hockey, you got a frozen piece of vulcanized rubber coming at you at 90 miles an hour, and lacrosse ball doesn't
Yeah,
come much
the big
softer.
difference between
So
a hockey goalie and a lacrosse goalie. A hockey goalie, well, outdoor you got chest protector and a big cup and some gloves.
yeah,
Indoor you got much more equipment on.
yeah,
But it still hurts because the puck and the ball always get you where you don't have protection.
yeah. It constantly amazes me. Actually, it constantly amazes my wife because I'll have like a bruise on my collarbone. She's like, "Don't you have a big chest protector sitting there?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "How did you get that bruise?" I'm like, "I don't know, but it hit somewhere."
Yeah, yeah, hit you somewhere. Oh no, I've come home. My wife's like, "Oh my God, look at you!" It's like, well, it's outdoor lacrosse. We don't wear that much stuff. But it's one of those things. The puck or the ball will always get you where you don't have, or you
Yeah.
think you have equipment, and you'll be like, "Oh, I don't remember getting that thing." So
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too. You come back, you're like, "Oh wow, man, I got hit there. I don't remember that."
yeah, yeah,
Some of them you remember though. Like I've had a couple that come off, and the most recent one I had was last month. The ex junior pro guy, and he can really, really, really throw that puck around. Um, and it came up underneath my mask, and like I've got full
you got the
tusk and
plastic
everything.
and the plastic shield too, right? Underneath
Yeah,
there, yeah.
and it came. I don't know how it happened. There was a bit of a deflection. He thought he was shooting a lot lower than what he was, and then it popped up. So I was looking, I thought it was coming low. He thought it was coming low. He was looking low, and then it fired up, and there was a bit of a deflection, and it came in and it hit off of the bottom of the mask and then down into the gap in my chest protector. And that thing smashed my collarbone, and I thought for a second I'd either fractured or chipped it. Like X-rays came back clean, but I'm like, are you sure? Because like I can't. It was one of those ones where it makes you numb all the way down to your fingertips. Like when you hit your funny bone, and you're like, ah. It felt like that through my whole arm for about 3 days.
Here's a good one. Here's my thumb. Here's my broken thumb from lacrosse from the last. And here's the real thumb, so you can see my thumb.
Yeah.
It's crooked. Anyway, I was playing attack, scored, got whacked, and knew something. I probably broke it, but I didn't take my glove off. So at the end of the game, I went over to the EMT and I said, "Hey man, I think I broke my thumb." And I pulled my glove. He goes, "Oh yeah, man, that thing's broken, man. You're gonna have to go." So I called my doctor, went in. He goes, "Oh, we'll get it." So there was bone chip, and he goes, "Look, I can put you in a cast, or I can just give you this temporary splint, And I was like, look, no, I still want to play. I'm a hockey guy. Stitch me up, whatever. I've broken so many bones. They call me Captain Lego. Both ACLs, noses, ribs, fingers, you name it, I've broken it. And so I'm like, no, I'll just do it. And after a while, but my wife was looking at my thumb, and she's like, that thing's never straightened out. I'm like, it's just the way it is. It's one of my war stories. So
Mhm.
good story about the collarbone thing. The puck didn't go in the net though, right?
No, of course not. No, that's
No,
what
that was
that's what I
worth
was
it.
standing there for. They've got lodged in my chest protector. So
So let's talk about the last 24 months. So,
Mhm.
Canada, I'm sure, just like the US, there was cranes all over the place. March 2020, everything gets shut down. Talk about, that 24-month period and kind of what went on across the border and, and some of the lessons that you learned from yourself and business wise.
Well, one of the first lesson that I learned was deficit spending will never get you ahead. Like, I thought at first I could spend my way out of some of the stuff, change some advertising. And I'd run a cash business. I did not do any debt spending for 7 years. And for whatever reason, I decided to. I was like, oh, well, everybody else is, and we've got some grants, and we'll do some work like that, and we'll spend some of the money that we don't have right now on the idea that somehow we're going to get an ROI on this. And if you don't have it to spend it, don't spend it. It's how I run my house finances. It's how I've usually run my business. And it was a quick lesson. I was like, nope, can't continue down that. So I I'm not a big fan of deficit spending, especially when the future is muddy. One of the things that I did learn was to trust what your clients are saying, what they need, because the needs of my clients changed over the last 24 months. A lot of them, their projects scaled down. They didn't need consulting, or they stopped worrying about auditing their safety systems. It wasn't a big priority to them because, again, their revenue had come down. But what was a concern for them is, am I compliant with all of these new regulations and things that have come into place? And can you get me up to speed with all of this? So where I lost almost 80% of my auditing revenue within a course of a month,
Right.
but I picked up almost 70% of my program development and my policy and procedure creation went through the roof because everybody needed something to address not only what was happening in the last 24 months, but going forward, if we have any kind of communicable disease, do we have processes in place? Do we need to review what we're doing as far as HR? How does remote work look? Do I need to be worried about my employee who's sitting in their home office? Do they need to actually do a hazard assessment of their house? Are these things that are required, necessary? Should I be doing them? Do I need to do them? Where is that fine line? And really having those conversations with my clients and listening to their needs was real important. And so I was happy that I did, because I was one of the few people who kind of made that transition as far as the labor force out here around safety. Had a lot of safety professionals who were out looking for work and didn't have it. So
Hey, listen, that whole story right there, I heard over and over the last 24 or 30 months, doing the podcast, where people that, after the shutdown, people had to assess and what they were going to do. Were they going to trust their people working remotely? How was that going to happen using technology like we're using today? And the companies that just about everybody had said the same thing to me. They were more profitable. They trusted their employees. They still maintain their company culture, and they haven't been busier. The biggest thing here, down here in the States right now, as we basically are opened up, is that they can't find project managers or superintendents, for the job. I don't care if it's residential, commercial, federal. It is what it is. And where they are, I don't know. And you can throw money and money and money at people, and they're not going to make the move. And
yeah, My wife is a project manager for one of the largest home builders here in Alberta, actually. So province or statewide, they're the largest builder. And there was a point where she got laid off, and within like hours of her putting up on LinkedIn that she'd been laid off, she had 10 offers from
Hmm.
other builders who, like, as soon as they found out she was available. And then as things started to correct, and as you said, the growth happened, being a project manager and a certified one, she has her PMP designation. She's getting unsolicited offers once a week to do some amazing things in amazing places. And it's not just US that is having that problem. You know, we're having it in Canada, we're having it in the US. She's getting offers from Europe, from the Middle East. I've started to find that I've been getting a lot of offers picking up for the consulting and project startup. It's amazing to me how we're coming out of this stronger. I feel it's quite interesting.
You know, like I said, I've talked to brands, end users, owners, architects, engineers, vendors. They're all busy, better busy than not. And I mean, and listen, it was a scary thing, because no one knew what the heck was going on. And it's kind of like going through a sports season. You got in the NHL, you got 80 games, 81, whatever it is, and you make your way through the All-Star games halfway through, and then you kind of retool and try to make it into the second season. And then if you do make it to the second season, then the play is so much faster, and
Yeah,
there's not much fighting because it's all business. It's about money, and it's about raising the cup. I
yeah,
don't care what league you're in. Same thing with lacrosse. And the but everybody that I talked to, they learned a lot about their business, how to become nimble, how to turn things quicker. If you're gonna make those in-face, in-person, connections, you're gonna pick and choose instead of making a 15 driving 2 hours for a 15-minute meeting. You're gonna use this.
yeah.
But if obviously that face to face still has to happen. And but many of them, I mean, just about all my clients, I mean, people I've known for years that they just learned so much about, and they had the best years ever. Now,
Yeah.
now obviously there were some that didn't, and they were the ones that weren't flexible enough or couldn't turn on a dime. And
Yeah.
it's just like me, I was print face to face, and I had my big event in January. I had my first cocktail in February, and then it was the shutdown. And then I had to figure out what I was going to do. And thank God I had a digital magazine forever, which I basically ignored. But overnight, I became a digital person. And then
Yeah.
I just had another 2.5 million people hit my website. I never had those numbers before, before the shutdown. So it was. Listen, in April, there were a lot of sleepless nights where my wife, where are you going? I'm like, I got to just go kind of think, because I was thinking about going digital, not stopping the magazine and having to make these decisions. And it's kind of like getting out and ready to jump out of the building, and
Hmm.
you're hoping that the rope's going to be strong enough, even though you've had those precautions. So when I stopped printing the magazine after 20 some odd years, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just going to go digital. Am I going to lose my advertisers? Am I going to lose my subscriber? And now, it's insane. And so, uh, uh, blessing in disguise, turning a negative into a positive. Is it cloudy? Is it sunny? Partly sunny. It's all those things. But it's amazing that even yourself, cross the border or whatever, that you know you lost a little, you gained a little. It's just like a retailer. Oh, they're going to close 15 stores, but if you read like down in the paragraph in that story, in the fifth or sixth paragraph, oh yeah, but they're going to open up 15 booming bigger new ones.
Yeah.
That have all the new bells and whistles and stuff. So
Or even, I saw a lot of consolidation too, where you're going to shut down these 15 non-profitable sections, but like you said, we're going to grow. It may not be a 15 for 15, but they're going to do, 7 or 8 bigger ones that are more efficient from what they've learned from over here. And I think that's, when I was doing my eyeballs, I didn't have the luxury of a cable. I was jumping into boxes,
mhm.
stacks of cardboard boxes, and I had to hope and pray that we'd done that build right. And I really thought about that over the course of, but as you said, April, May 2020. as I'm starting to look at how am I going to change things, I remember thinking about doing the high falls and the boxes. Like I had to build that safety net up so that when I took my leap of faith, I still had something to hit that would catch me. And I was glad that I took the prep time to really analyze what my needs were as opposed to trying to make a knee jerk reaction. Because I know in March I wanted to knee jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the beginning of February, I had signed enough contracts that I was going to double my revenue from the year previous, and the year previous was my record year for my company. And I was going to double it. I had all those contracts signed. By March 30th, 90% of my revenue had evaporated.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a real point where I was like, what do I do? And I'm really glad that I didn't panic. I was glad that we had cash reserves, that I had a banner year in 2019, that I could sustain myself for a couple of months and actually think, what do we do? And that's why I was really glad that I never did deficit spend, because if I had been in debt for that first half of the year in 2020, I don't know if I would have survived. I would have probably had to shutter the business.
I remember in March, I had my event, and my wrap up was in my March, April issue. We were bi-monthly at the time. And I was fighting with my printer. I'm like, look, half the people I'm going to send my magazine to, they've been furloughed, their offices are closed. I don't even know if the magazine is going to deliver. I really just want to do a small, and he's coming back to me, David, you've been a publisher forever. It's economies of scale. Once the printer is set up, it's just adding paper and ink, and I'm like, yeah, but it's just, I know half my people have been they're not in their offices,
Mm-hmm.
and so I bit the bullet because I had a promise, I had it in my contract that I was going to do my wrap up on, on my summit. So I bit the bullet. I said, okay, fine, I'm going to print it and be done with it. But then once that got done, it came off the printing press and it mailed. That's really where that end of March, beginning of April, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I can't sit around for 2 months and I was doing these cocktail parties once a month. And I just started my podcast. I was going to do one podcast a month. I started doing them once a week, you
Yeah.
know, and we used to print 5,000 copies and I'd send out 25,000 emails. Then I did a very, very small press run just for my advertisers, my cover features. And we did it on a digital printer, and the magazine never looked nicer. And
Mm-hmm.
but we sent out the magazine to 125,000 people, and
Mm-hmm.
and then this other stream, just like you said, this other thing came out. This people would find me because my SEO was excellent. I had a lot of content on my site. People from all over the world were finding me, and they were like, "Hey, can I get content on your site?" And from there, it just, so now I'm a digital guy. So a couple weekends ago, I took a digital class. Friday night, all day Saturday and Sunday. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "No, I'm a digital guy here. I'm taking this class. I want to learn about, funnels and, all this stuff." And it
Yeah.
blew me away. First of all, there were about 1,000 people on this call, number
Yeah.
one. But number
Yeah.
two, I was thinking about all my clients that could use this technology to enhance their reply and how they handle their leads and this and that. And I'm thinking about my own website. If someone comes on there, I mean, all of these things. I was just worried about what they were doing, and it was mind blowing. And I was like stoked. I was like, I'm like, oh my god, man, I just made it in the finals, man. I'm ready to freaking raise the cup again. Hey, baby. And I've
Yeah.
only done it once. I was on an undefeated team, 20-0 here in the AAA league, and I just blown my first ACL out. And I'm like, no, man, I'm playing in the finals. But I remember raising that cup, and boy, man, it felt good. Even though my leg was blowing out from the weekend before, it felt good. And but the day I stopped learning is the day I should go do something else. As far as I'm concerned, and everything that I've learned in the past, that I can probably apply it here, whether it's from sports, business, personal, whatever. So that your story is, I've heard it. It's good to see that the Canadian, our counterparts there, across the border, they were going through the same thing, but you were nimble enough that, you were able to, I don't like using the word pivot because I've heard it a million times.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I have purposely avoided using that word because
So
I
I
don't
just,
know.
we're hockey guys. So, man, it was a quick, hey, man, the puck just went the other way. Man, you got to get back, man. Chop,
Yeah,
chop, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, change of direction. But I don't know that pivot isn't. I don't know that it's necessarily even the right word. Like I think of even having run aerial photography, having a fleet of 3 planes, being in aviation for as long as I was. I just think of a course correction. Like it's not like a pivot to me is counter to where you were going. Where a course correction, you're still, this is the end destination. We just need to change the heading by 1 or 2 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't need a lot of people. I think this, yeah, especially as a speaker, right? Like I used to do live events all the time, and I'm thankful that I'm starting to get back to some live events. But even the virtual wasn't a pivot from live events. It was an augmentation of what was already happening, and there was already a push to that. Like I've been doing hybrid things where they had a digital audience that was coming in to participate with the live audience. I've been doing a lot of, I've been doing webinars and seminars digitally for probably 4 or 5 years. So I'm with you. I don't like pivot.
Mm-mm.
Maybe a bit of a course correction, like you said. Maybe it's a change of tack, maybe a change of direction, but we're not pivoting. And the other thing too that I don't like pivot, and this is just me. I think when I think of pivot, I'm thinking basketball,
Yeah.
right? And you're pivoting, and what are you doing? Your foot is stuck. Your one foot is anchored, and you can't. Once you start a pivot in basketball, you can't move. You have to come up with something else. Where course correction or change, your a reverse of your skating direction, that you're still in the game, you're still playing. You aren't stuck, and that's why I didn't like pivot. Pivot to me indicated that you were anchored to this point, and now you had to like spin in circles, and that's why I didn't like it.
No, really good point. I was going to ask you, if you wanted to leave one positive thought or phrase, with our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk, what would it be? But I think that was just it. But if you have another one,
No,
please.
let's leave it at that. No sense in mining, going to the well twice. You don't want to
Yeah,
come up dry.
yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
Basketball. Believe it or not, ice hockey and lacrosse uses so many of basketball plays:
Yeah.
backdoor, pick and roll.
Give
Knock
and
them
go.
give and go, 2-on-1. They're all the same. Believe
Yeah.
it or not, and they're different and completely different sports. And but in lacrosse and in ice hockey, you don't pivot. When I blew my first ACL out, I had got this guy had pulled me down, and my blade, he got stuck in the ice, and he pulled me back. And I remember bending my knee really back, and I was looking up at the roof of the rink, and I heard the pop.
Yeah.
And then I went over to the bench. My leg was wobbly. I finished the game, and I knew I had done something really bad. And but my state was stuck, and I couldn't do anything. You know,
Yeah.
and I look back at that, and I'm like, God, am I so glad that when this whole thing happened, last 24 months ago in March of 2020, that I wasn't stuck in there like I
Yeah.
was that late, because I couldn't get it out, and it freaking took me a year, and so thoroughly like it. Don't pivot.
Don't
Okay?
pivot.
Course correction,
Yeah.
tweak, scrap the plan, go someplace else. Go into the locker room. You're down 3-1. You can come back. There's 20 minutes to go. Never give up. We're going to do this, and we're going to get it done. Right?
Well, and like you said, especially in hockey and lacrosse, you're always moving.
Yeah.
You're always moving,
Yeah.
and as long as you're moving with purpose, you're gonna hit your end goal. So
If any of our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk wanted to get in touch with you, how would they reach out to you up there in Calgary, Alberta?
well, the first thing that they need to do, I will tell them all about that. But if they're a regular listener to your show, David, I would ask before they do anything to come over to mine. They're already on your platform. So if they're listening to this right now, whatever device they're listening to it on, I would ask that they hit pause and give you a 5-star review and a comment on why they come back and listen, what they're getting out of commercial construction coffee talk, why they like listening to what you have to say, David, who maybe one of your favorite guests on were. You know, what value are they getting out of your show? And if they could do me that favor so that you can continue to serve them, then because they've already hit pause on this, now they can unpause it, and I will say thank you for giving David and Commercial Construction Coffee Talk a 5-star review. As a thank you for doing that favor for me, they can come over to SeanTylerFoley.com, and Sean is spelled the proper Irish way, SeanTylerFoley, and say Tyler sent you. If they go to that website, right on the above the fold, one of the first things they're going to see is an invitation to join my Facebook group, which is called Endless Stages. And there I go in and I do a whole bunch of training for people who want to get more confident at public speaking, learn how to use stage to accelerate their growth in their business. I go live every Tuesday there. Plus, they get a free digital download of my book, The Power to Speak Naked. They can book in a 20-minute one-on-one with me there. That's all free. And it's not one of those weird sales calls. I hate those, by the way, right? Come have this 20-minute free call with me, and I'm going to try and talk you into this $10,000 coaching package. No,
Right.
not the deal. I just want to get to know the people who are in Endless Stages, see how I can serve them better. That helps me guide and steer my content. So if anybody wants to, come over to SeanTylerFoley.com, tell them Tyler sent you, but only, David, if they've given Commercial Construction Coffee Talk a 5-star review. No 5-star review, no Endless Stages for you.
Yeah. Oh, that was really good. It even rhymed, So, hey, listen, I appreciate the plug. And, before we were on there, it's time for show and tell. So let's see what you got there, Tyler. Come
Are
on.
you ready? This is my new.
You got to tell people what
toy.
it is.
This is for those who don't know, this is an ice hockey goalie glove, a Vaughn SLR3. But if they look really close on the cup, it says Francouz, and that is the backup goaltender for the Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And this is Mr. Francouz's practice glove. So this I got in auction. I literally came into the house just like 2 or 3 days ago. So now I'm walking around feeling like a champion with my full right, because I'm a weirdo when it comes to goaltending. Full right practice glove from Mr. Francouz of the Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche.
It was amazing. I thought they were going to keep him in the finals, and then they let the other guy come back, and I thought it was a gutsy move, but that's
one that paid off. Here's the thing. So for anybody who wants to Google right now or on YouTube, after you've given the 5-star review and visited SeanTylerFoley.com, I want you to Google Francouz Robs McDavid.
Yeah.
And this is the glove that does this. And I just love it. I love it.
All right, so I'm going to show and tell too. Okay, for those of everybody knows I've played at DU. So this is actually a throwback helmet. When I went out for the 2015 after we won the national championship, I went out for alumni weekend, played in the alumni game, and anyway, Coach Tierney, Bill Tierney, he's got 6 national championships. He'll be in the College Hall of Fame. He's probably one of the greatest lacrosse coaches in college history. And he didn't even play lacrosse. Okay, so there you go. Anyway, he signed my helmet, and it was sitting there. I got to have this. So this is what the old DU helmets used to look like back in the day. And anyway, so it was awesome talking to you. Goalie, lacrosse, hockey, engineering. It's crazy. My son's in aviation too. He works for Boeing, and he just got on the flight line, and they just delivered the first 787 to American Airlines, and they just had this big gig. And anyway, he had sent us a note, and they said, Boeing does it right, when they celebrated, the delivery of the first airline and this and that. So it was very cool. So anyway, we've got that in common as well, the aviation thing. So.
Oh yeah, those Dreamliners are gorgeous.
Yeah. So, well, Tyler, enjoy the rest of the weekend. And enjoy the fall. I know the colors are it's gonna get cold up there pretty quickly, but I'm sure you got the fall season with the the leaves changing and all that. We've got still a couple months before that happens down here in the south. But pleasure having you on the show. And God, I'm gonna be thinking about you jumping out of the 6-story window into the boxes, man. That's gonna be painted in there, and the Francois glove. This has been awesome. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. So Listen, everybody, enjoy the rest of the weekend. And when you get back out there, make sure it's still hot. So drink, stay hydrated, and most of all, be safe on the site. Okay. And with that said, Tyler, I hope I get to meet you in person someday. We'll do no fist pumps. We'll shake hands, and maybe I'll bring my skates or my stick up. And we'll and I can rip it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to shoot on you someday.
Oh
So
yeah. No, I think we should do uh outdoor, get a nice little field lacrosse going in the morning, and then get it cool down on a nice skate in the rink in the
yeah, there you
afternoon.
go. Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I'm
Uh,
ready. I got my blades just sitting in my other bag in the other room, and I'm rolling. So, all right, Tyler. Thank you so much. Say goodbye from Calgary.
Bye from Calgary, and thanks for having me on, David.
And I'm David Corson. I'm going to say goodbye from Sugar Hill, just below the Beaufort Dam by Lake Lanier. And to everybody, happy Labor Day. And we will see you on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Tyler, I'll be in touch. Thanks so much. All right.